Razak bin Ahmad, PhD, from Education Malaysia and Global Service, EMS,
No, I'm not from
as our...
Education Malaysia Global Services.
Oh, sorry,
I
sir.
send you my CV.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no worry.
Okay, as our speaker this afternoon, we'll discuss about key theories and concept in democratic governments. Before our main event begins, I would like to remind you again that the international course in the second session in the third session, this afternoon, will last for 1 hour and 40 minutes, starting at West Indonesian time, 3 p.m. until 5 p.m. As in the previous session, the remaining time after the presentation of the material will be followed by a question and answer session. The participants are expected to be able to interact actively and pay attention to the presentation from Mr. Abdul Razak bin Ahmad, PhD. Previously, I will also briefly read the profile of our speaker this evening. Mr. Abdul Razak bin Ahmad, PhD, has dedicated his life to the pursuit of internationalism. His training in law and international relations, supported by extensive exposure to economics and political science, and advanced degrees in the international trade, security, and law allowed him to build a more equitable perspective for international relations and global governance that is anchored in the principle of justice and human virtuosity. Mr. Abdul Razak academic achievement reflect his dedication to advancing international relations and global governance. He holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Law and International Security from the University of Leeds, United Kingdom, and LLM in the International Trade Law from the University of Kent, United Kingdom, and an LLB from the International Islamic University, Malaysia. He has a wealth of achievement, job experience, and published many journals. And I am so sorry, not even able to mention them one by one. Our speaker this evening was truly amazing. Hopefully, we can learn many things about law with him in this evening online short course. Well, no need to wait too much longer. I invite our best speaker this evening, Mr. Abdul Razak bin Ahmad, PhD, to present ideas related to our theme this evening. Time and screen are yours.
Well, thank you, Ellen. Thank you very much. I'm joining you from Tehran in Iran. I'm so sorry for the technical glitches. We have to use VPN. This is a sanctioned country. So, and sorry for the delay in getting connected to your virtual network. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the generous introduction. I want to start with this argument that there has been plenty of empirical studies. There have been plenty of evidence. There have been plenty of concrete evidence, suggesting that the state of democracy globally is under stress. If you look at the reports produced by the Freedom House, the latest report produced by Southampton University, all these are a very strong empirical evidence that generally, globally, the health of our democracy is really seriously being challenged. And I would like to lay down some reasons why this is happening. Why is the state of our democracy is under stress? Why is there is a decline in our democratic health? I think the first reason why this is happening is because the system has been working for a very long time. It has been there for ages, yeah. But the world has also changed. Whether this system can continue to absorb the changes that is happening surrounding us is what we are witnessing now. For a system that has existed for a long time, of course it is going to be challenged. Of course, it is going to be tested. Of course, it is going to be, challenge. So there are circumstances in which very clearly that the system doesn't anymore fit the environment that we are in now. There are plenty of new challenges. For example, if you look at what is happening surrounding us, the emergence of social media, for example, has basically taken away the role of representative in our parliament. There are a lot of people who can speak up on behalf of the people. There are many netizens who can actually articulate their views, the grievances of people, and that's not necessarily through your representative in the parliament or in the Dewan Perwakilan Rakyat. The emergence of influencer, the emergence of all these social media players has actually in many ways replaced the role of political representative. I'm just giving you an example. Look at also the emergence of new technology, artificial intelligence, name it cloud computing, and etc. It has put a lot of stress on the current systems that we have. The traditional concepts of democracy, that okay, we must have that freedom of expressions, that we must have functioning electoral process, and etc., has actually been challenged. The younger generations doesn't believe in getting to votes anymore, because while they continue to vote, their fathers and their mothers continue to vote before, but they never got a better leaders, they never got a better country, they never got a better system. So these has encouraged them not to vote, for example. So whether democracy continue to be relevant or not is being challenged for a system that has been existing for a very long time, and circumstances have changed, environment have changed, the world have changed, obviously is under stress. So I think that's my very first explanation to why democracy is really experiencing a major deficit now. If you see what is happening in Burkina Faso, in sub-Saharan Africa, and etc., people have lost faith in election. They think that it is better to vote, or it is better to have a strong military leader to lead and to run their country. Partly also because before this, there were a lot of interference from Western countries in the running of their countries. So this is one of the reasons why I think the state of democracy is really in a bad health now. Second is the rise of, or the emergence of, what I call authoritarianism, autocratic leaders globally. We have seen that there are many, many strong autocratic leaders, people who are using popular slogans, popular policies, taking a populist approach, emerging globally. And these people are very charismatic. Some of them, either it is in Turkey, either it is in America, either in other parts of the world, they are very, very charismatic. They have something which resonates with ordinary people. I'll give you an example of how Trump has been very successful. For the second term of his second round of his presidency, he uses a very simple slogan, making America great again, very nationalistic, very populist, wanting to create more jobs in America, wanting to make sure that everybody, whatever America has paid to help the rest of the world, those countries have got to pay back, for example, in the case of Ukraine. These are all very, very popular rhetorics. In Malaysia, for example, the usage of religion, the usage of ethnicity, and the usage of popular rhetorics like, okay, the Malays are under threat, Islam is under threat, for example, has contributed to emergence of new leaders, who are not only very, very, charismatic, but also very popular. So, and this emergence of authoritarianism has actually given people hope that, oh, okay, if people go through the democratic process, and if at the end of the day things doesn't change, why should we continue to vote? Why should we continue to believe in the system? And I think this is very obvious. You can see this globally, and and it is an emerging trend. Number three, what are the important pillars of democracy, and what are the important pillars of good governance? An independent election commission, a freedom of speech, freedom of press, for example, independent judiciaries. These are very important institutions. But what has happened to these institutions over the last few decades is also very worrying. A lot of our election officials are corrupt. A lot of our judicial officials are corrupt. A lot of our police are corrupt. A lot of our military people are corrupt. A lot of our politicians are corrupt. Politicians are known everywhere, to have a lot of issues when it comes to integrity. A lot of them has been investigated. A lot of them has been involved in mega corruption. In the case of Malaysia, for example, we had the 1MDB scandal. It was a very, very mega scandal that involved politicians, that involved an elected prime minister. So if all those people who are helming all these institutions continue to be corrupt, continue to be seen abusing their power, continue to be involved in irregular practices or practices which are against the rule of law, against good governance, who will trust democracy? Who will trust a system that we believe is probably the best system for us to move forward, for us to develop our country? So this is happening. And I'm sad to say that, we have a lot of cases of either it is in the Western world, in the advanced democracy, or even in least developed or less developed countries. We have seen corruptions at the political level is of a magnitude that is beyond description, beyond explanation. So who will continue to believe in a system like this? So I think this is major reason why, especially the younger generation. I'm telling you, the younger generations, the millennial, the Gen Z, the whatever you want to call them, they continue to have a lot of distrust on democratic institutions because they have seen abuses, because they have seen how those institutions have been manipulated, and they have seen how those institutions have not been used for the purpose of advancing greater benefits for the society. That's number three. Number four, why is the democracy in a state of declines? Number four, it is because there are other systems that has proven to be working, and those are non-democratic countries. China, for example, no country have managed to do what China have been doing over the last 30, 40 years. That is the fast-growing economy in the world. It is now the second largest economy in the world. It is in a matter of time that it is going to be the largest economy in the world. China is a country that has managed to eliminate poverty, especially rural poverty. China has increased the number of middle class from a marginal number to a significant number of population. Approximately about 40% of the Chinese populations are middle class and upper middle class. China has transformed its country into one of the most developed technologically. They are the biggest manufacturing hub in the world. They are the biggest the most in terms of resources to help build a prosperous world through their One Belt, One Road initiative, or the OBOR initiative, or the BRI initiative. The shortened acronym of it is Belt and Road Initiative. China has been proven very, very effective as a government, as a country, as a system. And it is a socialist system. I don't really like to use the term communist system. I think it is a communist ideology, but it is a socialist system. Look at Vietnam. Vietnam has also proven to us, despite being a socialist country, Vietnam has become very, very, one of the major powers, manufacturing hub, one of the fastest growing economy in the world, one of the fastest growing economy in the region, and it is becoming a very, very important economy. Look at Singapore, for example. Singapore is not necessarily a full-fledged democracy. There are a lot of restrictions. If all of you remember Lee Kuan Yew was a leader who believed that there cannot be an absolute democracy. He was an authoritarian leader, but look at what he left behind. He left behind a country without poverty. He left behind a country that has been very, very successful. He left behind a country that has been very developed, So I think Singapore is a good example. Look at Brunei. Brunei is a full monarchy. People live in peace. People live with good quality of life. People have, very, very good quality of healthcare, very, very good pension scheme. Look at GCC countries. They're monarchy. They are not democracy. But look at the quality of life of those people who live in all those countries. These have proven to many of us that, yes, they are not democratic. Yes, they are not probably a country that have election processes like we have, but the country is very prosperous. The country is very successful. The country is very well developed. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are evidences in which not necessarily a democracy can actually allow you to be successful. There are strong evidences in which a system which is not democratic can also make you very successful. Number 5, there is a crisis in the Western democracy. Look at that, and this crisis has contributed to a greater distrust towards the Western democracy. Look at what happened in America now. Government officials can simply be dismissed. Government institutions can simply be shut down. Government regulations can simply be ignored. This is the world's biggest democracy. If this world's biggest democracy cannot respect the judiciary, cannot respect the institutions that they have built upon democratic principles, cannot accept a better governing system, how are you going to expect the other countries which are less democratic, or probably a democracy which is not as advanced as America, are going to subscribe to this idea of democracy? Look at how the biggest democracy has left multilateral institutions. They have left WHO, they have left International Court of Justice, they have left everyone else, just because they think that this country does not serve the interests of America. Look at what the biggest democracy has done to, Afghanistan, what they have done to Libya, what they have done to Syria, what they have done in the Middle East, what they have done against the Gazans, the Palestinians, how they have destroyed the Palestinian homeland, how they have allowed destroy Gaza and kill people indiscriminately, and saying that this is not a genocide. If this is the behavior of a democratic country, if this is the behavior of the largest American democracy, a global democracy, who will then have trust in democracy? So I'm telling you that the behavior of the Western world, the silence of the Western world towards atrocities that's happening surrounding the world, you know, the way they treated the Israeli and the way they allow the Israeli to kill the Palestinians, these are all manifestations of failure of a modern democracy. If a country like America cannot stop what is happening in Gaza, cannot do justice to the Palestinian people, do you expect people to believe in the democratic idealism? So that is a biggest challenge that we have to overcome. Now, what do we do? I don't want to discuss I'm not a person who give a very long lectures of 1 or 2 hours. No, I don't do that. I will just speak to you 5, 6 points. I will give to you another 4 more points. After that, I will open this for question and answers. Let's be pragmatic about it. Anyway, what do we do? How are we going to restore this confidence? How are we going to ensure that there is going to be better governance again after this? I think we got to accept this reality. Number one, that we have to reinvent the way we understand democracy. And that democracy cannot be just the model of the Western countries. If we can look and modify our model of democracy based on how we look at ourselves, look at how we manage our local domestic needs, for example, it's important for us to probably bring those into our democratic system, our new democratic system. So this idea of yeah, this idea of reinventing our democratic practices to ensure that it is compatible with our local needs, to ensure that it is compatible with our local condition, to ensure that it is compatible to our local environment. It is very crucial. There's no need for us to be following what the West has been doing all this while. We have a system that works, we have the Mushawarah system, for example. How do we institutionalize our Mushawarah systems at our kampong, our villages, our provinces that can actually allow more inclusive discussion, more inclusive interactions for interest to be taken into consideration. So I think this is what we should do to make sure that we reinvent the way we practice democracy or the way we understand democracy. There's no need for us to bring the American democratic system, the American values, the Western values into our system. You cannot give rights to LGBT, for example, because the LGBT movement is against our religion and is against our values. We cannot allow people to simply, allow children to be adopted by LGBT couple, for example. Those are values which are not compatible with us. We are Muslim. Islam is a very central part of our religion, for example. And I think this is what we must understand, contextualizing the way we understand democracy for it to be suitable for our society. Number two, I want to talk about this new era of a global majority. Ladies and gentlemen, did you know that 9 out of only 10% of the global populations are white? Only 10%. All right? 90% of the global population are people like you and me. We are brown, we are black, we are whatever you want to call it. You can call us brown, you can call us black, you can call us whatever. But 90% of us are like this. Why are we submitting ourselves only to the Caucasian? We have run our civilization better. Our civilization starts much earlier than the civilizations of the US. The Persian civilization starts 5,000 years ago. The Chinese and the Indian civilizations started thousands of years ago. The civilizations in Nusantara started thousands of years ago. You go to Borobudur, you go to Borobudur, you go to many other parts of Indonesia. These are all clear manifestations of earlier civilizations, which you do not find in the Western Hemisphere. You know, so this idea of a global majority, this idea of we can make the difference, this idea of we are the marketplace, this idea of we can trade among ourselves, this idea of we can do many things together can actually bring better prospects for the global democracy and for global governance. The idea of global south, they call us global south. It is not us calling us ourselves global south. The Western world call us global south. This is the problem with them. They like to categorize us. They call themselves first world. They call us developing world. They call us least developed world. Now they call us global south. People in the south, people in the south, people are backward and etc. This is how they categorize us. So I'm sure all of you understand that, look, if only we work together among ourselves, bring ourselves together to trade, bring ourselves together to do businesses together, bring ourselves together to learn from each other, I'm sure we will be able to benefit in a greater way, because countries in the global south do not have this tendency to invade other countries. We do not have the intentions to take over other countries, to impose our values, to get people to believe in our values. No, we don't. We are not like the Americans. They use the TikTok, they use the IG, they use the Facebook, they use the Twitter to change the way we think, to change the way we behave, and etc. That's why I have always been telling friends, I said, look, there is a need for us to be innovative. There's a need for us to invest more in science and technology, to invent. They have X, why can't we have Z? They have Instagram, why can't we have ASEANgram? Why can't we have something, an alternative to all this? Why do we have continuously engross ourselves with this idea of just following their model, their system, their structures? Third is, how do we improve our democratic governance? We have to invest to strengthen our institutions. We must be committed to make the right people to run in democratic institutions. People with strong credibility, people with no corrupt intentions, people who are having credentials, not simply people who are just politicians without credentials. We need people with strong credentials. Why is people like Sri Mulyani continue to be trusted as a finance minister? Because she's not corrupt. She has a strong international profiling. She has a lot of credibility, strong credibility. So we need to have more people like her, more people who can actually be trusted, more people who are not corrupt, people who has expertise, people who has things to offer. This is what we need to do to strengthen democracy in our country, to strengthen systems in our country. Fourth is the role of civil society. Democratic institutions cannot function properly if the civil society are keeping quiet. We need the civil society to make noise. We need the civil society to give constructive criticism. We need the civil society to be playing a more constructive role. We need better ideas. Gentlemen, ladies, let me tell you this. The idea of the government knows everything is over. If you think that the government knows every solution, if you think that the government can come up with every formula, every intervention, you are wrong. The idea of everything must be government is wrong. This is an idea of less state, less government, more society. In Islamic tradition, We have seen how mosques were built by the society, how zakat was done and managed by the society, how education was established through waqaf by the society. There were no government who set up all these before. Al-Khawarain University in Fes was set up through hibah from a very successful woman entrepreneur, Fatimah Al-Fihri. These are all waqaf institutions. Look at how the society built mosques. Look at how the society provides solutions to poverty, to underdevelopment, to many other things. So I think the society must play a greater role. The society must come forward. The society must not wait for the government. If schools in our kampong, if schools in our villages are dilapidated, are not functioning properly, why can't the kampong people come together and make it better? Contribute it, contribute in making it better. We don't have to wait. We just could not wait. If the roads are not properly paved, we have to come together and ensure that the roads are repaired, the roads are properly maintained properly. If there is no water, it is our responsibility to find a source of water, to come together and provide water resources to our community. I think this idea of a big society, this idea of where society plays a greater role, more important role, is very, very crucial. This idea of relying only on the government cannot continue. This idea of just waiting for our politician to resolve our problem is over. This idea of asking our politician to give money in order for our problems to be resolved, it will not happen. The population is getting bigger, the societal complex is getting more difficult. So I think we have to really do our part as a society, as a civil society, as a community, to ensure that we take our own problem, we solve our own problem. Number five, technology. I think it's important for us to use technology for better governance. Look, people ask me, do we need more schools? I said, now, I think, yes, we need more schools, but we need schools that connect everybody to better internet. We need schools that connect everybody to better teaching materials. We need schools that can actually bring the very best teachers to appear online and to teach complex mathematical problems. So I think this is what we need to. We have to use greater technology. We have to use modern devices, modern way of solving the problem. Can we come together and find a solution to make our schools better through technology? Or even if there is no school, if everybody have iPad, if everybody have better connectivity, people can learn. I've been telling friends, it is impossible for us to rebuild schools in Gaza in the next 2 years. But do we want to wait for all schools to be built in order for us to bring education to them? Can we now bring education to everyone, not only in Gaza, but in Africa, in Latin America, in many other parts of Asia, poor Asia, in India, in many other parts of India, through internet, through connectivity, through better digital education? Why can't we explore that? Can we come together to resolve our climate change problem through technology? Not just necessarily waiting for our government to introduce better legislations in the parliament or more funding for society, for more funding to address the issue of climate change. Why can't we take it ourselves by minimizing waste, by using technology to ensure that there is a better utilization of water? So I think the best way to improve the future governance is through technology. Technology can also help us to checkmate government. We can use technology to ensure that the government is transparent. We can use technology to ensure that the government is fair. we can use technologies to ensure that the government is inclusive. I'm going to stop here, Ellen. I think I have spoken enough, and let's entertain questions now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for Mr. Abdul Razak bin Ahmad for present very well and informatively. Hopefully, what has been conveyed will provide long-term benefits to all of us. Now, it's time for the question and
I can't
answer
hear you now.
session.
You're muted.
Oh, that's. Can you hear my voice? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much to Mr. Abdul Razak bin Ahmad, PhD, who present very well and informatively. Hopefully, what has been conveyed will provide long-term benefits to all of us. Now, it's time for the question and answer session for the audience who are curious on or want to discuss further regarding this discussion. Let's make the best use of this opportunity. As a reminder, the question and answer session is divided in two sessions. In the first session, we limit it to 3 questions. When the time is up, where there will only be 1 question and answer session. For question, you can submit them via Zoom live chat, or you can express them directly by activating the raise hand feature, which will then be invited by the moderator to open the microphone. For all participants, the screen and time are yours.
If there's no question,
Wait a minute, sir. Maybe they are still writing. Okay, we have 1 question from Giza. So good evening, Mister. Glad to have you here. I want to ask, how do populism and authoritarian tendencies threaten democratic governance? For Mr. Abdul Razak,
can you repeat the
you
question
can answer.
again?
From live chat Zoom. Okay.
But can you repeat the question again for me?
All right, Mister. Wait. How do populism and authoritarian tendencies threaten
Okay.
democratic governance?
The answer sometimes is yes, sometimes it is no. Populism can actually be promoted through democracy too, you know, and you know, through democracy, there are also many populist leaders, yeah, people who likes to take populism as an approach for them to attract bigger global supports or domestic supports. So if you ask me whether it is a threat to democracy, no, it is not. In fact, as long as they uses democracy as a platform to promote popular ideas, then it is very positive. It is very encouraging, you know. If you ask me about authoritarian tendencies is threatening democratic governance, yes, and yes, and yes. And this is very worrying. Just look at what is happening in America. Can you believe they can just simply shut down an organization, the US, AIDS, and etc.? Can you believe they can, you know, decide to simply get rid of 2 million people? Workforce who has been working. These are not just workforce. They are not logistics, you know. They are not commodities. They're human beings. These are people with families. These are people with commitment. These are people with, obligations to family, to friends, to mother, to father, to children, etc. Authoritarian regime, no matter how they want to portray themselves as part of the democracy or not, is threatening democratic institutions because they always think that they have better solutions. They always think that they have fantastic better ideas. They always think that their popularity is larger than the popularity of others. So that is why they get always carried away by all this. If you look at what is happening, the deficit of democracy in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Chad, in all those countries, for example. Why? Because at the end of the day, strong leaders have emerged, and these strong leaders have suppressed democratic institutions because they have other ambitions, they have other tendencies to stay longer, to be more powerful, to accumulate more power into their authority, under their authority. A lot of these people, ladies and gentlemen, is that people who thinks that there is no one else that can replace them, so they should stay as long as they could. At least when you have a democratic system, people who think that they are a very strong leader will be limited to only 2 terms, for example, or they have other ways to be removed, for example. A president can be impeached, a president can be removed, for example. So at least they have an opportunity to be checked, to be regulated. But the tendency of an authoritarian regime, because they're so charismatic, because they are so popular at times, or because they use fear to intimidate people, to intimidate their citizens, they have, in many ways, threatened democratic practices.
Okay, thank you
The
so
second one is that,
yes.
what do you think about the use of buzzer to promote the government program? What is buzzer?
Wait.
What is buzzer? Can anybody explain to me what is buzzer? Moderator, you are a generation
Sorry.
Z.
Sorry,
Yeah.
from Indonesia, buzzer like influencer who
Oh,
promote
okay.
something. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I think I don't belong to your generation. Yeah, your generations are Generation Z, Z. These generations are different generations from my generations. I'm an ancient generation. You are generations which people like us hardly understand, and you also hardly understand us. So since influencers are part and parcel of the norms that you have now, it is very much part of the younger generations. I think that is a very, very important instrument to check government, to promote government programs, to ensure government transparency. Influencer can have huge influence. They are some of influencers are better communicator than politician. Some of them are better orator than politicians. Some of them are more knowledgeable than politicians. But there are also many influencers who are less intelligent, who are less influential, who are less skillful. So you have to use the right influencer to make sure that the government is checked, to make sure that the government program is promoted in a more transparent and inclusive way. So if you ask me whether influencer can actually help the way government function, my answer to you is yes. Can it help democracy? Yes, of course it is. Yes, if you have a strong influencer who can actually encourage the young to come out and vote, for example, that is very positive. If you can get an influencer to actually bring young people to protect civil institutions we have in our country, in our democratic system. That's fantastic. So we need people who are influential, and these people, because of their followings, because of the number of people who follows them, who wants to be associated with them, is huge, is big numbers. Some of them are in millions and millions. They can actually make the government a bit more worried and a bit more concerned. And because of that, the government will perform better, and the government will do better to deliver their programs and their services. So I think the idea of using influencer is a very, very important idea that can actually help improve better governance. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you so much for the answer. For other people who have some question, you can question to our speaker.
This is what class, yeah? This is what? This is a master program or what?
It's for the international, sir. Like free people,
It's a short.
not just for student, but all
Okay.
people can follow this event.
Okay, that's nice. Okay. Well, as you mentioned about Singapore and Brunei, you have any comment about benevolent dictatorship? Now, look, I don't like to use the term dictators. Dictators is a very, very extreme word, It is, the dictatorial regime is a very brutal regime, very, very brutal regime. But I would like to use. I prefer the usage of an authoritarian regime. Authoritarian regime is a regime that is probably less democratic, but still confined to some democratic principles. They still have some tendencies to respect democratic principles. They still have a lot of respect for the judiciary, for example. They respect the institutions of election, for example. They respect at least a contest for presidency, for example. But a dictator, no. Fidel Castro, no. He was a dictator. He didn't want anyone else. He wants to run the country for life, Maduro, for example, he's a dictator. No one else can challenge him. He ensured that even though there is an election, but the election is rigged, the election is manipulated. So if you look at Singapore and if you look at Brunei, both countries are, as I mentioned to you, they may not be democracy in total, but the monarchy has worked. It has been able to provide a lot of benefits to the society, even though without democratic principles. You see, all kind of sounds. And in Singapore, for example, they do have elections. They do have very, very regular elections every 5 years. The mandate will be renewed and etc. But of course, they're very strict. You cannot chew a gum, and simply throw rubbish and etc. And they curtails a little bit of some press and etc. Why? Because I think at the end of the day, to them, the larger interest of the society is more important than individual interest. I agree with that to a certain extent. I agree with that. The interest of the larger society is more important than the interest of a small group of people. You cannot use freedom of expression or freedom of press, at the expense of the larger interest and security of the country. You can't do that. Certainly you cannot do that. In the case of Brunei, it is not a democracy, it's an absolute monarchy, but that absolute monarchy has worked. They have the the Sultan is a very fair man, well loved, highly respected. People um, uh, 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 who are concerned about their own people, who do a lot to help its people, who provides the people with better healthcare, better education, etc. So even though he's a monarchy, he's loved. He is doing justice. He's doing what it need to be done. So I think um, if you ask me, we have to allow the diversity of system. We cannot have just one system. Democracy as an idea is good, but you cannot have democracy in every place. You cannot have democracy in every society. You cannot have democracy in every part of the world, because it's a Western idea. It is a Western idea. But democracy can actually function effectively if it is adapted. Even if it is not adapted, even if it is not practiced, it can still other system can still function and function effectively. What do I think of the impact of social media and democracy? It's very important, to have social media in a democracy. If you ask me, I can tell you two things. The government have lost power over two things, or the government have lost control over two things. First is information. Government cannot control information anymore. Whatever ways that they want to hide information, it is impossible for them to hide information. The world has changed. The era of transparency is very rigorous and radical. Everybody has to come forward and present a transparent government policy. You cannot hide it anymore. First is information. Second is, I mentioned to you just now that the government have lost control about over information. Yeah. The second is the government have lost control over communication. Government is struggling to explain their program, struggling to explain their policies, struggling to explain their success, or struggling to explain their blunders. So that is why it is very important for social media to be used. Social media is so influential. It can bring down government. It can, if you see what happened during the Arab Spring, why did it happen? Why did Arab Spring happen? Because the social media was able to highlight the grievances of one particular vendor who killed himself because he was very frustrated in Tunisia that he was not given licenses to trade. So he burned himself. That has started the Arab Spring. It was facilitated by social media. If you look at why government now is investing a lot in hiring social media specialists, it is because the government could not handle traditional communication anymore. It is not who watches national television. Nobody watches national television. Nobody watches traditional TV anymore. Everybody gain information from social media. So if you ask me whether social media is very important in democracy, yes, through social media, you can ensure that your parliamentarians do their work. Through social media, you can actually speak to a president. Through social media, you can send you can send letters to your information about your problem to the rest of the world. through social media, you can also raise funds to solve the problems in your kampong, in your village, in your province, and etc. So if you ask me whether social media is important, it is absolutely very, very necessary for you to integrate, incorporate social media in democratic practices. It can make democracy better. It can check democratic practices. It can actually ensure that democracy functions effectively. Can we take
Okay,
one or two more questions before I stop?
I see we don't have any question again, sir.
Then if we don't have any questions, we can stop here. No problem.
Okay. Before I'm going to closing this event, you can give our closing statement so we can take your time.
I have to
So
give a closing statement.
yes, before
Okay. Well,
I'm
thank you
closing
very
this event.
much. Yeah. Thank you very much, University Muhammadiyah Surakarta, for inviting me. Um, I have articulated this idea of, a decline in democracy. I have explained why it is happening. I have also given some explanations on how it can actually be reinvigorated. And I really hope that, those views could help you to understand better the context of democracy and governance in our modern society. Thank you again, and I look forward to further engagement with the university and also with all of you. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So before we are closing this session, we have closing statement for our commit. So for our commit, the time and screen are yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. For the lecture. This is the end of our session. Actually, this event has been conducted for 5 days, and this is the final session. So I would like to say, yeah, and so you are the latest speaker for this event, actually. Okay. Before we close our event, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for making this event success. I think in this past week, we have explored a lot of topics with relation to the challenge of democratic backsliding. And as Mr. Abdul Razak explained earlier, that this discussion is very essential, especially for shaping the future of governance. So this 1 week event with over 350 participants from around the world, especially from students from Indonesia, Vietnam, Uzbek, Thailand, Bangladesh, and Turkey. We express our gratitude for their participation. Thank you so much. Your enthusiasm and engagement have made this experience even more meaningful. And I would like to say thank you very much for the Faculty of Law, Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta, for supporting this program. And I would like to say thank you as well for the distinguished speakers from Prof. Aidul in the first day and from Mr. Abdul Razak Ahmad in the end of the session. Thank you very much, sir, for giving us
A pleasure.
very insightful discussion. And I would like to say thank you as well to the organizing committee for their hard work. And most importantly, this event will be meaningless without the participation of all the participants here. Thank you for your active involvement. I hope that this course will provide you with the valuable knowledge and new perspective. To end the session, let's stay connected and explore for the future collaboration. See you in the next international short course. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Okay, for all participants, seeing our time is running out, the question and answer and the closing statement is over. As the moderator, I would like to express my gratitude for the enthusiasm and attention of all participants, as well as thank our extraordinary speaker this evening, Abdul Razak bin Ahmad, PhD. We explain about key theories and concept in democratic governance in a very interesting and easy to understand. I'm Ellen Chalsimnandito. I also apologize profusely if during my time as a course moderator in this last session, there were still many pronunciations and errors. Permission to remind all participants. Sorry, I asked the moderator her permission to say goodbye and see you again on another occasion. Once again, thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
A bit announcement for the participants. So after this, we are going to drop in the WhatsApp group the mechanism to join the post test. Please bear in mind that the post test will be conducted tomorrow, started at 10 a.m. up until 12 a.m. In West Indonesian time. The details of the post test will be dropped in the WhatsApp group. Thank you very much and see you.